So we have with us today Mr. Sanjay Anandaram. Welcome, sir. Very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this very important session, like Masterclass with Sanjay Anandaram, where we are all here to learn how to prepare a compelling pitch deck for our enterprises. We have a diverse group of audience, the members with us today. We have our Elevate Women Sashakti incubators from Mysore region. We have our CWE premium members, gold and platinum members here. We also have women entrepreneurs who are interested to be CWE members, who have shown interest to be and want to participate in the session. So we have, welcomed you for this session. And let me take a few minutes to say what CWE platform is all about. We are an online and offline platform. We are a nurturing space for women entrepreneurs to start up and scale up their enterprises. Let me introduce Mr. Sanjay Anandaram. He's a CWE catalyst and mentor, and he comes with 30 plus years of experience. He's an entrepreneur himself. He's an author. He's an angel investor. So without much delay, I'll just hand over the session to Mr. Sanjay Anandaram to take you through this masterclass.
Great, thanks very much.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you, CWE. Thanks for the opportunity and wonderful to meet all of you. And thank you all for taking time off on your afternoon to be here. What I'll do is, we have 90 minutes. And I'd like this to be, not just a one-way broadcast, but also something where, you can jump in, ask questions, and share your own thoughts and observations, so that in that process, we'll all learn. And at the end of this 90-minute session, we can depart having known more than when we entered it. Does that sound all right? Yeah, okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I have a set of slides. I'm going to go through the slides. There is nothing sort of unique or divine or unusual or singular in the deck, okay? You'll find it all over the internet. And because, the art of pitching or presentation, has not changed ever since the first person made the first presentation to the first bunch of people in an audience. I've collated it, a lot of my own experiences, what I'm going to share and talk to you about. All right. And so let's go ahead and let's start with this whole thing about the developing a compelling pitch deck. Okay. And this is your single most important document that you will ever prepare as an entrepreneur, because you're going to be using this to present to a host of constituents. And it is important that you spend time understanding how to prepare this, and then thereafter, how to develop it and present it. Okay, so let's move on to the next one with the pitch deck itself. You will see that the pitch deck essentially, in summary, in the aggregate, needs to answer 5 questions. Who am I? Why do I need to exist? How will I exist? In what form, shape, and manner? Why will I be better than everybody out there? And how will I make money? Okay. These are the only 5 questions you must stay ruthlessly focused on, nothing else. Because imagine you're sitting on the other side of this presentation deck, and I'm making this presentation to you, and you're sitting there, you're wondering, why should I even waste my time listening to this person? Why does he need to be here? Why can't I look it up on the internet? Why is it going to be better? How does this presentation deck make a difference to me? And so on, right? So these are the kinds of questions that typically occupy all our minds. And as an entrepreneur, these 5 questions are what you must absolutely be crystal clear about answering. Now, moving to the next one. Every deck, every document, every material that you have okay, And that is very, very important. Normally what happens in most of the time, we want to tell our story. We want to tell everybody what we are doing, how wonderful we are, and that we are changing the world. The question you should ask is the person sitting on the other side, how does it matter to them? So to be able to answer that question, we have to be clear who we are talking to. Are we talking to investors? Are we talking to advisors? Right? And you'll notice that everybody has a different worldview when they listen to the same document. And therefore, the way in which the document is shared, presented to them, makes a big deal of a difference. Next. So when you look, then again, I'm just going to walk you through a series of other hiring, right? You need a pitch deck to hire. Why is that important? How do you convince somebody to leave what they are currently doing to join you? Why should they leave you? What prospects do they have? What is the risk that they see in your business? How do you make sure that you are able to get them on board? What is your story, right? Then your customers don't know anything about you. Why should they buy from you? What is your story to them? How do they know that you're not going to cheat them, right? So there are different kinds of things that you have to keep in mind when you're telling this whole story about yourself. Next. Next, please. Hello.
Yeah, this is the...
Yeah, next, right? Okay. So again, you use the pitch deck for partners, for suppliers. Everybody has to be convinced that doing business with you is good for them. More often than not, when we talk to others, we are thinking about how is it beneficial for us. But when we make a proposition to somebody, we have to present it in a way that they see value by partnering with us, either as a customer or as a supplier or as an employee or as an advisor or as an investor or as a bank. Let's say many a time we may need not to go to an investor, but may go to a bank or a funding agency of some kind. Now, the question in their mind is, we get hundreds of such requests every day. Why should I pick you? How will my institution, how will my business gain by working with you? All right. So it's very important to always keep this 360-degree view of different people that you need to be addressing the pitch deck to. Next. So when you look at this, so there are multiple constituencies for your pitch deck. We've just talked about it. Therefore, the question then comes, oh my God, there are so many people, different kinds of people. And is it the same deck for all? Is it different decks for all, etc.? I'll talk about that. But before that, the question is, who makes the deck? Many a time what happens, you give it to your chartered accountant, or there is some other consultant, or to someone else, let's say your best friend, whoever, and you ask them to prepare it. Now, that's a terrible idea to have. The person who is the founder of the business needs to take complete ownership of the pitch deck itself. Okay, so you don't go to consultant, you don't say, okay, all of us will come together, somebody will write this portion, somebody will write that portion, and so on. While that may be true in bits and pieces as a team, but there has to be one owner of the finished product, and that owner is the founder entrepreneur. All right, so it's very, very important that you understand this. You cannot outsource it to anybody else, and you have to take that ownership onto your head. Now, coming to this, I also talked about that, okay, we've got all of this. There are different pitches that you might need to make. If I'm going to a bank, I'm not seeking investment. I'm seeking funding, and the funding will typically be in the form of a loan. So what is the concern in the bank's mind? That if I lend you some money, how do I know that you're going to be able to return it? So two things you have to convince the bank that, yes, this is a great business. We are a great bunch of people of high integrity and ability to execute. And this, because it's a great business, it is throwing up so much of cash over the next 3, 4, 5 years. Some of that money we will take and use it to retire the loan that we have taken from you, right? And that's an important thing. It goes back to the old question of who am I? Why do I need to exist? How will I make money, right? The same set of questions, but the emphasis this time, depending on whether it's a bank or let's say whether it's an investor, the emphasis just shifts. If you're talking to an investor, you're talking not about being able to return the money from the cash flows that you are generating, but you are returning the capital with a multiple based upon the capital appreciation of the stock. So when the investor has put money into your company, let us say it is 10 rupees a share, because you've built a great business, because it's growing very rapidly, because it's very unique, because you've got a great brand, because you've got multiple partnerships and great distribution, you've got wonderful sourcing taking place, you've got a wonderful digital platform, etc., etc., etc. Therefore, that 10 rupee a share at the end of, let's say, 5 years is now worth 100 rupees a share. So that is how an investor makes money. And an investor has no collateral, unlike in a bank. A bank will take collateral, right? They will borrow some, you borrow from them, and therefore they will take some collateral, typically also with a personal guarantee. So therefore, the way in which you will present the same information, the emphasis will shift. In one, it is about returning of the capital with interest, and the other is the capital appreciation itself. And again, all of this thinking, all of this passion, this knowledge, this putting together of all of the different aspects of the business can only be done by the founder entrepreneur. Next. So who writes the plan, right? So when you create this, then typically somebody iterates, somebody does this, all of it, right? So one of the important things, again, is that, is it a CEO? You could have a CEO, you could also have a founder. The two could be separate. In many cases, you have a situation where the founder and the CEO are the same person. So typically, the founder / CEO, or if they're two separate, it's still the founder's vision and the founder's dream and idea that is brought out in consultation with the CEO, so that the nuts and bolts are put into place, right? So it's very important that this aspect be brought out, okay? And you make sure that the writing of it, the putting it into the deck, etc., is done by you as a founder CEO. Next, please. So there are some, excuse me, some keep in mind points that I'm now going to walk you through, okay? And it's important that you understand these. Yeah, next. So the pitch deck, okay? So what will the pitch deck contain? One of the things, and some do, some don't, is the pitch deck has to look professional. When I say professional, what does it mean? Don't have spelling mistakes. And one of the most irritating, annoying things is that when you spell the name of the recipient incorrectly, or your team members, or the name of the organization to whom you are presenting, what does it tell the other person? That you're not paying adequate attention. It seems like a very chalta hai time pass kind of approach. Okay, don't make basic grammatical errors. Don't make it, and at the same time, don't make it excessively slick and jazzy, with all kinds of VFX and, animation going in and out and, 3D effects like in Avatar or in RRR, none of that stuff. The second thing, Keep it simple. Keep it simple means don't write complex, complicated sentences. Just say simple things. This is what I will do. This is how we will do 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Don't complicate it. If you see the number of decks that people prepare using complicated language, it will run for some three lines. At the end of it, you can't understand what is it that they're trying to say. And remember, it is very, very hard to keep things simple. Okay, so it's important that you spend a lot of time thinking about how do I reduce my business idea, my communication about my business to as few points or few sentences as possible, such that the person hearing it understands it pretty much with about 78 to 80% accuracy. Okay. For example, when YouTube first came, it just said broadcast yourself, right? That was the one-line tagline. And it was very easy thereafter to explain what you do. Typically, you will find very many examples for you to practice. So when I say, for example, let us say you have to explain your business to your 80-year-old grandmother. What would you say? Another exercise that people tend to do is at the back of your business card, can you just write what is it that you do and why are you better, faster, cheaper than everybody else? So it is important for you to be able to develop that clarity of thought and use simple communication to be able to state who you are, why you exist, how will you exist, and how you'll make money, and why you're better, faster than everybody else. All right, it's very, very important. And please pay attention to a lot of these seemingly unimportant aspects like spelling and grammar and formatting and all that. And don't use multicolors. Okay, don't keep changing font sizes in that same deck. You know, your headline will be in some pink color and font size 40 and Times New Roman. Below that, it'll be in blue, it'll be in italics, it'll be in Garamond. Okay, none of that. Just keep it simple. Use the same style of typeface. You may want to change the size of the font if you wish. Some you may want to make bold. And what you make in bold should be the stuff that you want the receiver of the information, you want their attention to go to that particular point. That is why it is in bold, right? And it's very, very important to note that. Then avoid buzzword compliance. Buzzword compliance is using trendy, fashionable words or phrases. And don't sort of use that thinking you're going to impress the audience, right? The audience has heard like 100 of these, at least, and they're sick of hearing the same stuff. All that they're interested in hearing is how you will make money for them and how you are the person who's going to make it happen. Or if I'm an employee, why should I join you? Okay, so don't use complicated language, don't use buzzwords. And incidentally, as a matter of research, those who use a lot of buzzwords, who use a lot of what they think is trendy and technologically interesting words, it actually betrays a confused mind. There's an anecdote, when Einstein was asked to explain his E is equal to mc squared equation to the lay person, he said, look, my theory explains that if you sit with someone you love on a park bench for an hour, it seems like a minute. If you sit with somebody you don't particularly like, the minute will seem like an hour. Right? Well, that is not exactly what E is equal to mc square is, but the way in which you say it, it explains conceptually the idea that time is relative. It depends upon who the observer is. It depends on who the observed is, right? Excuse me, without getting into complicated physics and calculus. So can you distill your business in a simple way, like I said, such that a 80-year-old grandmother can understand it? All right. Then stop making any irrational assumptions. And one of the most common irrational assumptions is we have no competition. I am the only player in town. Ours is far better than what anybody else can do. Nobody else has this in the market, right? And other such, and there are innumerable examples. Don't say such things because everybody knows it's not true. Okay. And the question people are asking is, if there is nobody out there, then is it even a market? Because after all, you're not coming out with a brand new algorithm or some new secret sauce involving some deep science that nobody in the world has thought about, right? That only a tiny fraction of people will do and would spend years building the science and tech behind it. So don't make any irrational assumptions. Then indefensible assertion. An indefensible assertion is, if I ask you, so what do you think of competition? No, I don't think about them at all because we are the best. Now, there is no basis for you to say that. And that's why it is an assertion that cannot be defended. It is just a statement. Now, but what is the impression in the mind of the other person? That, you're just throwing out things without really applying your mind, without really being aware of what the market condition is, without really knowing who your competition is, without really knowing what else is going on in the market. All right. So very, very important that you tailor your communication, be clear how you say things, right? End of the day, the other person must trust you. They must believe what you're saying. Okay. And therefore, it is that belief that it comes from honesty. And the other thing, which is kind of like a housekeeping thing, similar to the point about don't be sloppy with bad spellings and so on. Ensure that basic contact information. Many slides you find, there is no contact information or website information or social media handles mentioned at all. No phone number, nothing. So you mail the deck to somebody, they go through it very quickly, and then after 3-4 days, they say, sounds interesting, let me take a look. There's no way to get back to you. Okay. And it happens more often than you would think. So have basic stuff in there, have disclaimers saying, for example, if you're using somebody else's brand name, okay, and let's say you're talking to a big company that's got a well-known brand, they are not your customers. You don't have permission to use their name. Don't use it randomly unless you have a disclaimer below that. Okay, and when you use data and you quote numbers, etc., somewhere in the deck, have a provision for ensuring that the data source is mentioned. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of random numbers that are being thrown about. Okay, so keep all of this in mind, please. Next. This is a very important slide, namely that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So don't write to, if you can help it, visually represent what you have in mind, right? If you see the picture there, there's a cone with 3 scoops of ice cream. And then on the right, just look at the number of words I've used to describe. So it's important that when you go through your own deck, ask yourself, what is it that I could use visually? Many of your products, most of your products are visual in nature, right? Whether it's a learning kit, whether it's travel, whether it is a handcrafted something or the other, whatever it is, food, whatever category, the visual appeal is always significantly more than writing long, boring text. So you just show, hey, this is what we're doing visually. Visually means you can show the product pictorially. You can have boxes with arrows flowing left to right to left, that demonstrates how information or money is flowing. You can have visuals that represent people. So there are very many ways in which you can visually represent the idea that you wish to convey. Okay, and please keep that in mind. It makes it's highly impactful. It doesn't take away attention. It gets people to really focus on the core point that you're making. Next. Yeah, there's some examples of visual representation. Okay, if you look at one on the right, if somebody was doing an app store, how would you explain it? Okay, there's one example. An app store today, we're all familiar with app stores, the Google Play and Apple, the iPhone App Store and so on. Instead of writing long things about it, just a simple diagram that explains what happens, what's the movement of information or the keyboard strikes, and clearly you get a sense of how this whole thing works. There's a developers, software developers, right? They will create the apps in turn are then consumed by customers or businesses, and there's a platform, a digital platform that essentially mediates that. If you look to the left, right, there is a revenue and there is a cost element. Now, Blink is basically a telecom company. So it tells you how a traditional telecom business works and what they have done. So it's like a before and after scenario. Okay. So it's similarly in your business. Before you entered the scene, how did people do what they did? After you arrived at the scene, what is the situation today? Right? Very simple, two sets of diagrams on the same slide, so people can compare, people can see the difference and very quickly understand what it is that you're trying to do. Okay, because remember one thing, most people don't care for you or your business. It is our job to make them care. We have to make them excited about what we have to offer, so that they stop doing other things and they jump into understanding what it is that we have to offer. Next. Now, I had talked about earlier of irrational assumptions. Okay. Remember, hope is not a strategy, right? So I hope we will be able to do well. The moment you say that, you have lost the confidence of the listener. And again, don't make any assertions. We don't think there is any competition. It's a random assertion, right? Many of it could be irrational. We think we will get the lowest cost. How? We think because we know, right? There is no data, there is nothing. Always remember that when you develop a thesis, follow this flow. There must be a logical flow to what you are saying. So you present some facts. The facts lead to some inference, some insight. So there are some facts that this is the situation, this is the problem, this is what's going on. Therefore, the insight is that here is a gap in the market, or here is the opportunity in the market. And what is the implication? The implication is that therefore, if there is a product or service or experience that is able to address the needs of this gap in the market at this price, at this segment, in this manner, then there's a good chance that it is going to succeed. Okay, so the flow, you have to first develop it in your mind. The facts to inference to the implication for you, for your business, for what is it that you are offering. Okay, so it's very important that you get that into your head, the flow, so that even when you're speaking, you're always testing what you are saying against the flow of the logic. Okay, so that there's consistency that is built all the time. Next. So when a pitch deck should show the thinking of the team. What does that mean? And I'll give you an example. Many, many years ago, I was sitting in an office of one of the top investors in Silicon Valley. And he asked me to sit and listen to a presentation by a team of entrepreneurs who were pitching to raise some money for their business. So there were 3 of them and 2 of us, and then he asked them to present. So one guy, apparently the CEO, started. So he spoke for about a minute about the company and this, that. So the VC, Bill, asked the CEO to stop his presentation, looked at the other 2 who were sitting there and asked a simple question. The question was, why is he the CEO of your company? Okay, why is he the CEO of your company? What was the point of that question? The point of that question was, is this person a command and control kind of person? Is this person able to get the best people to join, not because he's more powerful, but because out of respect and knowledge that they have joined? Is decision making in this company driven only by one person? Or is it something where while one person takes the final call, the inputs and considerations expressed by others is also part of the decision-making process? And there are multiple other sub-elements to this whole point. So when you have to show the thinking of the team, right? It is not all the time, it's not about I. It is about a we. So when you present and you talk about we, we, even if it is 2 people, it is we. This is what we are planning to do. This is how we're doing. I've spoken to a lot of my friends and colleagues who are doing other businesses. I've spoken to friends, some of them are helping me out with marketing. I've spoken to some volunteers who are helping me with social media. I've spoken to some academics who are doing some research. After hearing all of them and after discussing it with them, we think that this is a right path to follow for the following reasons: 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So some combination, some similar kind of thinking you have to be able to show when you're presenting. Otherwise, what happens? It seems like, hey, this person doesn't have anybody else to go talk to. There is no new input or insight that is made available to this person. It's all about I. It's all about one person. Okay. And this one person, the risk element becomes very high. Okay. And we'll come to that as we make progress. Next, please. Right. This is one of the very important slides, right? So when you're presenting and you're talking about your pitch deck and everything, you can't say something on slide 5 and then suddenly contradict yourself in slide 12. Right? You may have forgotten, but the person who's hearing what you're saying has not forgotten. Right? So it's important to be consistent. Important to ensure that that logic I talked of, which is facts to inference to implication, that flow is again consistent. It's important that you keep this in mind. Many a time you'll find people will say things, will represent things which is at variance. The other thing, there is nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong in saying that you don't know. Right? Many a time in a pitch deck, what will happen, you're talking about it, you're presenting it, somebody will ask a question. It is okay to say you don't know. It is absolutely wrong to say something off the cuff without being sure of the answer. Because then you'll come out as somebody who's not telling the truth. It is absolutely fine to say, look, good question. I don't know the exact answer to this. If you don't mind, can I come back to you by tomorrow with the answer? Right? And then you come back the following day and say, hey, this was a question you asked. I was not able to answer it at that time. Here is the information or the data or whatever else you wanted. Okay. And what that does is it does 2-3 things. Number one, it establishes you as a person who's honest. 2, it establishes that you care for that question and that you actually came back, you did whatever little research or spoke to somebody else or something, and you got back, right? And these are all good things to do to establish a presence in the other person's mind. Always remember, business is built on relationships. Relationships and business are done between people. They're not done between presentation decks or between Excel sheets. Therefore, the way in which you communicate, what you communicate, how you communicate is important. Not by trying to drown the audience in using some jargon or trendy buzzwords and stuff like that. Okay. Excuse me. So it's very important that you keep that angle in mind. Next, please. Don't be defensive. Okay, if somebody says, oh, I don't see any differentiator in your product. There are like 100 products that do exactly what you're saying. What is your response? You can have 2 kinds of response. One response is, if you're ignorant about it, it's, oh my God, I didn't know about this. I didn't even know there was competition, which is bad news. That's one response. The other response is, no, they are not competition. They are not, no, don't worry about it. Okay. The third response is, oh, we're pretty awesome. We are fantastic. Nobody's going to deal with it. Okay. All these are defensive responses that don't buy you any credibility with the audience. Okay. On the other side, you must not appear to be arrogant. Okay. There's a thin line between confidence and arrogance. Confidence allows you to be humble. Arrogance prevents you from learning. Okay. So when people say that, look, you're confident, means that just because somebody has given you some adverse feedback doesn't mean that you change your entire presentation deck. If you are confident, you can take the inputs, either discard it and saying, look, I've thought about it, but I don't think it works. Or you say, hey, that's a good point. Let me think about it and come back to you. Far better responses than to say, oh, no, that's not going to work. I'm telling you, it's not going to work.
I think we have lost him. His screen is frozen. Just a moment. He will join back.
Want to message him, Suma?
Yeah, I've just done that. Yeah, he's just joining back.
Yeah, so I was at this point where I was saying, don't be defensive, don't be arrogant, right? Be confident. There's nothing wrong in saying, I don't know. Or, hey, that's a wonderful input that you just gave me. I had not thought of that. Let me see how I can incorporate it into my business, or how I can incorporate it into my sales, or in my design, or in my marketing, or whatever, okay? The point being that, am I open to getting feedback from people to be able to handle what they're saying? Because the purpose is what? The purpose is to build a great business, not to have an ego and argue with the other person. Okay, so it's important that you have that kind of a approach that is built into your presentation and your pitch. Next. Now this is again an important thing. While we may think we are God's gift to humankind, we may think we are the greatest people on earth, we may think that the world owes us a favor. What is it that the person on the other side of the pitch deck is thinking? That person is like the crocodile. Okay, that person is seeing all of this. You're sitting there peacefully thinking that, I'm conquering the world. That person is saying, look, there are so many risks in this business. There is no team here. There is just one person. And clearly they need some marketing help. They need some sales help. They need some help in this area and that area. Those people are not visible. So I see a risk in the people. Or even if these two people are there, will they get along well? Can they work together? Okay. So those are the kinds of questions that the person on the other side is thinking. And that is why, have you heard of this phrase called due diligence? Yeah. So in due diligence, what happens is, and this is the area of diligence that is the most detailed. They want to know about you. They want to know, can you handle pressure? Can you handle the heat? How do you deal with situations when shit hits the fan? How do you deal with situations when your number one technology person, or your number one marketer or salesperson, or whoever, a senior important person of your team, if that person quits? What do you do when there is huge pressure from your customer? What do you do when customers don't pay? Okay, can the two of you work together? Two of you, as in you and your co-founder, or you or your colleague, okay, as part of the management team, right? And it is your job as the founder to be able to talk about the team and how you work together, and how the idea that you built shows the thinking of the team, the founder's passion with the execution capabilities of, let's say, the head of operations or marketing or procurement or whatever the case may be. Okay, so that has to come out, so that the risk that is seen or perceived by the persons on the other side starts reducing. This person has thought of all the issues. You may not have answers to all of them, but have you thought about it? Right? And that is the important point to convey. These basic things should not be a huge surprise. For example, hey, you don't have a salesperson. What? I don't have a salesperson. We have that person out there. That person is my salesperson. But that person has never done sales ever in a life. No, they will learn. Now, when you give an answer like that, what do you think the other person is thinking? Just by giving somebody a title of a sales head or sales manager doesn't make that person a salesperson, right? So it is your job to convince people and saying, look, they're great. This is what they did before. This is how they did it. And that is why I hired them, right? So by doing that, you're also demonstrating that you are thinking, you are hiring people based upon what your business needs, not randomly just to do a fill in the blanks. You understand? Very important to do that. Similarly, the market, right? The market, God knows what will happen in the market. Tomorrow there could be a new set of competitors. They could be both Indian or domestic. There could be new regulations. There could be customer needs could change. Anything can happen, right? The point again being, have you thought deeply enough about the market, your customer segments, what is happening there? What is it that they want? Why should they buy your product? What makes it a compelling purchase for them, right? All of these, you should be able to convince people. Then the business model, financial execution, these are all, I think, fairly obvious. And for you to be able to convince people, what is it that makes you stand out? Again, I'm saying you don't need to have answers to each and every one. But when somebody asks you the question, you said, yeah, this is what we are thinking about right now. We will reform it as we get more information or as we spend more time in the market, right? So when you say something like that, they know that you are aware of it. You're working hard to address the challenges that exist. By pretending that there are no challenges, you are actually shooting yourself in the foot. Okay. Next. So these are the business plan. When I say business plan, it is actually the deck as well. Okay. So that the deck is nothing but a representation of your business plan. So how would you do it? What are the points that you'd want to keep in mind? Okay. And it is an important thing that you have to always consider. Yeah, let's move on. So typically, and this is a good practice, okay, very important practice measure for you. Always start with your deck, say 15 slides, right? Plan for a max of 15 slides. Don't have some 45 slides in font size 8 with some 250 words, none of that, okay? Typically, in 15 slides, including your cover slide and your last slide, you should be able to explain the 5 points that I made. Who am I? Why do I need to exist? How will I exist? Right? Why am I better, faster, cheaper? And make money. Okay? Use visuals, no more than 5 bullet points per slide. Right? And liberal use of visuals, very important. And very key, therefore, for you to have clarity in your head. Only then you can communicate it simply, easily, and quickly. Okay? Very, very, this is the one that requires you to iterate and iterate. And like I said, it's very, very hard to be very, very simple. Okay? And you'll realize how tough it is. It is easy to write a 40-page document. It's hard to do a 4-slide deck that captures the essence of a 40-page document. You understand? The clarity must emerge. Okay, like I said, imagine you're presenting to your 80-year-old grandmother. Imagining you're explaining to somebody who has no clue who you are. Your job is to convince them to join you. Think of that scenario. What is it you will tell them? Okay. It has to be convincing. It has to be exciting. It has to be something that makes the other person say, man, no one else seems to be doing this. Or it could be, I can change the world, or I can make a massive impact. Something that must come out of your presentation that makes people say, this is worth looking at deeply, rather than say, oh my God, one more. Okay, so keep that in mind. Once you do that, that is the deck part of it, which will take most of your time. My guess is 70-80% of your time will go in generating that. Then you start writing an exec summary, which is basically articulating the points in the deck. Okay, in about 2-3 pages, you should be able to write. Right? And then thereafter, develop your plan. Because the plan will have a lot of details about your company structuring, the financial model, projected financials, those kinds of things, which your presentation deck need not have. Presentation deck regarding your financials will only talk about, this is the amount of money I need, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to spend the money, and approximately next 2 years or 3 years, this is what I'm going to generate. Okay, high level stuff. The job of the presentation deck is like that of a resume. What happens when you see a resume? When you see a resume, you don't immediately send an offer letter, right? The job of a resume is to excite you enough to make you want to meet the person, right? So the deck will, when you present the deck and share the deck, people say, man, this is really, really, really exciting. Let me dig a little deeper. Let me understand more about what this is. Let me get to know the entrepreneur a lot more. Let me understand her better. What is motivating her? What is inspiring her? What will make her last? Why won't she give up? Will she be able to attract people to the business? Will she be able to form partnerships? Can she take tough decisions, etc., right? That is what they will now want to see, because you have now interested them, excited them enough for them to want to know this. And then they'll say, all this is great. Now let us see what the numbers say. Okay, that's when you start getting into the whole thing. So typically the whole process, from the time you have a deck till the time you close some funding, for example, or a customer order, or hiring an employee, these are all things that typically take from a few weeks to maybe a few months, depending on what it is that you're trying to do. Okay. And therefore, you have to have that same energy, the passion, the rigor, the discipline, the focus to continue to be doing this. And that's one of the tests for you as the entrepreneur, to keep that going. At the first sign of resistance or trouble or rejection, if you collapse and go back home, then everybody knows that you're not fit to be in the game. Right? It is brutal. It is Darwinian. It is going to be an environment where your ego has to be kept aside. But you must never lose your confidence. Okay? And you must be constantly learning. If somebody says, hey, the presentation didn't work out well, I don't think this pitch deck makes sense, what is your answer? You should ask question. Why isn't it working out? Where do you think I could have improved? What aspect of the business did you not understand? Right? There is no harm. In fact, it's wonderful if you ask questions. Okay? And keep asking that. But that's the only way you learn. If you don't ask questions, you'll never learn, right? So you have to ask questions, and each meeting, each feedback that you get becomes a tool for you to improve the deck, include certain points, understand what to present, what not to present, and so on. Okay. And the good entrepreneurs are those who ask lots of questions, because their whole purpose is to learn and become better. Not by saying, I know everything. I'm doing you a favor by giving you this meeting. So I'll tell you what I'm doing. And if I like you, I may take money from you. You understand? There are people like that as well. But most of us are not hopefully not in that position, or don't want to be in that position. Therefore, you must be confident, you must be humble, and go with the approach of saying, I want to learn. Why? Because every input will make my business better. Next. Yeah. These are all elements that you need to have. We talked about the plan preparation. Now are the elements, meaning topics. Now I won't say topics, but areas that you must have spent time thinking about. Okay. And this is about your the business plan elements. The first point, like I said earlier, was who am I? Who are we? People want to know how many years of experience do you have? Where have you worked? What are your competencies? Have you run a business before? And the team members that you have you guys worked together as a team? Why did this person join your company? Okay. It can't be, I was hanging around, I didn't have anything to do. But, we got introduced through a mutual friend. So we were hanging out, having coffee. So I said, hey, you're doing nothing, just come and join. Now, that's not a exciting answer. The exciting answer would be, yeah, I was talking about this business to this person. This person was working as so-and-so in so-and-so company. They heard it. They were so excited. They resigned the next day and joined. You understand? So people want to see people with passion, with energy, with drive, with determination, and who are committed to the business, not time pass people. And there are lots of time pass people, right? So it's better not to waste time with them. Then it comes the point is, what is it you're doing? Why? Are you solving a problem? Are you grabbing an opportunity? Right? Who's facing this problem? Where is this opportunity? What is the opportunity? What is the problem? How big is it? How fast is it growing? Right? Which is basically a lot of understanding of the market, understanding of customers, understanding of segments. For example, who's your customer? If I ask a question, a bad answer is everybody with a pulse. Right? Is a very bad answer. No, I'm targeting only women. Another bad answer. A better answer would be, for what we are doing, my audience is really the 25 to 35-year-old woman who's a working professional and who lives in cities and doesn't have time for, let's say, cooking. And therefore, what I'm producing, I'm delivering wonderful, ready to cook hot meals available. And it's priced only at this much, which is equal to what her monthly grocery bill is, plus 10 or 15%. You understand? Much better answer than saying all women or everybody with a pulse. Okay. So the point being, understanding who or imagining the persona of the person who is actually going to spend money to use your product or service, not some mythical thing. Okay. I mean, I've had situations where people say, oh, I'm making t-shirts. Everybody will want a t-shirt, no? So my market is actually the world. Yeah. You understand? What do you mean your market is the world? Are you actually going to sell your t-shirt in Africa? Are you going to sell it in Central Asia? You can't even sell it in your own town. How will you sell it? Okay, so get into the details. How will I do it? Who is going to buy it? Why should they buy it? How big is the problem of t-shirts, etc., etc.? Understand? That is what is the option be able to think about as you do your analysis. Then comes this point about how will I fix the problem or grab the opportunity? Why will I be better, faster, cheaper than everybody else? How will I get my customer? How will I retain my customer? If a customer calls me at night, 9 o'clock, saying something is not working or something is torn or something is bleaching colors, what will I do? Have I thought about it? Again, I'm saying you don't have to have all the answers. Okay. And therefore, you must not appear to be very slick or glib. But you must tell, yes, it's a good question. We've also thought about it. This is how we are thinking of solving that problem. Okay. And all the other points about your partners, your pricing, your cost, how much for what, etc. All of these, you should have at least be able to demonstrate that you have applied your, your mind to it. Right? Okay, next. So these are typically the way in which you would organize the flow. Again, this is not cast in stone, right? These are all indicative based upon the business you're in and how you wish to arrange it. That's your choice. But these are the generally accepted topic flow, all right? And so that people get a sense of what is it that you are doing, who you are, etc. All right? There's a cover slide, right, which talks about your business positioning. So typically your first slide, your cover slide will have the name of your company, there's some logo and this, that, right? Below that, they will write something. So if I see that, I know exactly what you're doing. So if I say so-and-so brand, below that, I can say branded, high quality, homemade South Indian pickles for the working urban person or something like that. Okay. So if I just read that, I know exactly what business you're doing, right? I don't have to know more. I also know who your customer is. I also know what kinds of geographies you're going to target. Okay. So see if you can come up with just a 1 line or 2 lines below your logo and company name, etc., that very quickly, without wasting time, communicates who you are, to whom, and where. Because then you don't have to again go through 4 slides to explain that. Your opening thing itself, you have told, you have communicated everything. Then you talk about the team. You introduce the team. You said, hey, this is who I am. This is my background. This is why I started. And by the way, here are my colleagues. Right? All the things I talked of earlier. You introduce them. And that is very, very important. And we talked about, the need, the customers, who have the problem, who has the opportunity, where is the opportunity, what is it that you are going to provide, which is your solution, right? That is going to address the problem, or your offering that is going to plug into the opportunity gap. Competition is why are you better than the other people in that market, in that customer segment, in that geography. Okay. Then how will you sell? What is your current traction? If you have any, are you started selling? If you started selling, how much are you doing? Then if moment you say, I'm doing so much business, people will want to know who are these customers? Why are they buying? Have you spoken to them? Are they willing to buy more? Why aren't they willing to buy more? Etc. etc. Okay. Then what is your strategy for growing? How do you plan to grow? What are the 5 things you're going to plan to do? Then obviously, the numbers and all of that, right? And one of the things is there is something called credibility through association. You may not be well known, but you can create a board of advisors. You can create a board of directors who may be people of some eminence that you can say, look, I reach out to them for guidance. They mentor me, they help me, and so on. So you start automatically telling everybody that your open to getting inputs and advice from people, because this is your first venture. You're happy to listen to them. You're happy to take their guidance because your goal is to build a successful company, right? Then you also have milestones, right? This is when I started. This is where I am. This is how much money I need to raise. This is where I'm going to go in the next few months, years, whatever. Next slide. This is a critical slide, okay? Very, very important. And it's important because learn to tell a story. Because when you're standing there and your deck is telling a story, you are standing behind that deck. It is your story. Okay? Very important. Because the whole point here is that people must relate to the deck. It is not a research report with some numbers, a few graphs. It must not be antiseptic and sterile. It is organic, it is living, it is exciting, it's passionate, right? People see and say, my God, this is exciting. I got to be part of the story. Who's this entrepreneur, right? She's got so much josh. She's driven. She wants to make this thing happen. But if your entire demeanor is that of a person who has just run 2 marathons and somehow you crawled into the office to present, then the person on the other side will respond in a similar way, right? There's no energy left. Okay, all right, thank you. You understand? So, and there are different styles you can adopt. The first style is you are the hero. What does that mean? It's a personal reason why you're doing this business. I started this business because something happened to you. You experienced something. Somebody told you something. And then you say, man, I thought if I am experiencing it, others must also be experiencing this. That is why I decided to start this, to solve the problem that so many women like me face, or so many households face, or so many people face, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But it is your story. You are the hero. Okay? Imagine you're writing a script of a movie. You are the hero. Okay? And the hero comes up with the story. You're facing challenges and odds. You overcome it. So you not overcome it, you overcome those problems. And then you solve it. Right? That's the story that people want to hear. It's a good tactic to use. The other is where the customer becomes the hero. What does that mean? Said, you know, I made this thing, and believe it or not, somebody came to my house the other day. They just saw this line. It was handmade by me. They picked it up and they just loved it. They loved what I had made. It tasted so good, or it looked so beautiful. They asked me, where did you buy this from? And then guess what? They liked it so much, they ordered 10 of them. Then they went and told 20 of their friends. And then suddenly on WhatsApp, I was getting orders. You understand? The customer becomes the center. And different kinds of customers with different points of view, from different geographies, with different inputs, are buying. Another great technique to adopt. The third is that the market becomes the hero. How does this work? The market becomes the hero when you say, hey, you know what? India is changing. There's a lot of youngsters with money who are now entering the workforce. They all want to buy trendy clothes. They all want to reconnect with India. All the clothes available are foreign or Western. They want to have something desi. And it's a big market. It's growing very fast. So I think there's a huge opportunity. And I've decided to create these India-themed clothes that is very different and unique because 1, 2, 3, and therefore the market is the story. The market will carry you. You don't have to do anything extraordinary because the market momentum of the growth of the customers, of the latent need is going to carry you forward. You understand? So the same product you could have, but you could present it in 3 different stories. One where you're the hero, one where the customer is the hero, one where the market becomes the hero. All right? How are we doing so far? Clear? You're kind of feeling all right? Next, please. So, end of the day, the purpose of the pitch deck is, like I said, depends on who you're presenting it to. If it's an employee, you want that person to quit everything and join you. If it's a customer, quit everything and buy from you. If it's a supplier, extend the best possible credit line to you. If it's a funder or investor, immediately wire money into your bank account. Right? These are all the end goals of a successful pitch deck. You understand? And therefore, it's critical that you practice this. This is not going to happen randomly. Not like one day you roll out of bed and, chalo, let's go and do one pitch today. It's not a time pass thing. You have to practice and practice, stand in front of a mirror, practice how you speak, because you can't take a long time with buts, right? It comes because if you have not practiced, you will naturally end up having a lot of gaps in your answers. Practice questions. What if they ask me this question? How will I answer? Right? Lot of practice. Okay. And remember the old saying, it takes a lot of practice to appear to be spontaneous. Okay. So great speakers, great people who make great speeches, everything is practiced. Okay. And it's important that since you're going to be using the pitch deck for one of the most important things in your life, namely your business, right? You must practice. Okay. And that's the only way you will keep getting feedback. And when you practice, maybe have it at home with some people listening to you, some friends, colleagues, etc. And ask them to give you feedback. Hey, did you understand what I was saying? Would you have bought if I had made this presentation? Forget you're my friend. Would you have bought it? What didn't you like? What did you like? What should I reduce? What should I increase? You understand? So you go through that process. Okay. Next. So these are milestones, right? We develop the pitch deck, and then these are the milestones that we would look at. Now, these are things I'm putting it here. These are things I want you to think about as you go about developing the pitch deck. Okay, because there are 4 things that you always have to keep in mind. You are shooting for a set of outcomes. That whatever, that you have some goals, right? That I want to achieve something. So there are a set of goals. To achieve those goals, I have a set of tasks or activities. It's not happening by magic. Correct? So first is, what are my goals? And you can say in 3 months, I want to do this. I want to have so many officers. I want to hire 1 salesperson. I want to hire 1 digital marketing person. I want to be present in 4 shops. I want to be present in all of Mysuru or in all of Bengaluru, whatever. Okay, so that are your goal. To do that, there is a set of tasks or activities you have to do. which means I have to hire somebody. To hire somebody, it's going to take time. So where do I hire them from, etc. So there are sub elements to that activity, correct? Then there is, to do these activities, it is going to take some resources. It is going to cost me some money, right? What is it? Are we talking 5 lakhs? Are we talking 50 lakhs? What are we talking about? And then finally, there is a time. It takes certain time to do certain things. So in your mind, you should be constantly evaluating these things on these 4 parameters. So when somebody speaks to you, they know, they say, okay, supposing I were to give you 50 lakhs, so what would you do with it? It does not come as a shock to you. Say, this is what I have. If you give me 50 lakhs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is what I'll do. In the next 6 months, this is the number of people I will have. I expect my sales to be so much. I'll be there in so many shops. I'll be there in so many stores, whatever, okay? And from 2 people, I would have been 20 people. And you can only answer that if you have practiced it, which means you have thought about these questions. You understand? That is the point. Your thinking and your investment, meaning your mental, intellectual, emotional investment into building your business, that has to emerge. Next. Now, this is important because most of the time when you start, people will say, I don't have a network. I don't have any money. I don't even know why the hell I'm doing this. I don't know. I can't hire anybody. I don't have any advantages. So even before you start, you have mentally ensured that you don't do anything, right? But you look at all the advantages you have. Okay, you can have a good team, credibility. What does that mean? You hang out with people who are credible, which means you have to go out. You have to get, like I said, let's say a board of advisors, board of directors, friends. All these people should be people who vouch for you, who are kind of like your advocates, who are like your spokespeople. Okay, you can focus on a small niche, which for the bigger companies or the larger businesses may be insignificant. It doesn't matter, but it is significant for you. That is what matters, right? You could have lower costs. You could be, because you're small, you're very nimble, you're very flexible. Because you're a small team, all of you can focus just on that, doing that one thing, whatever it is that you're doing as a business. And that one thing has all the focus. Whereas in a larger company, there'll be 20 people doing 20 different things, right? And so there are multiple ways in which you can see your business having advantages. What it requires is for you to have the mindset to see your business through that lens. Okay? Yeah? Good. So I'm going to stop now. I think we've got about 10 minutes to go. Yeah. And any questions, whatever, I'm happy to respond to them.
Thank you very much, sir. And it was a great, solid learning of 90 minutes, I must say, and a great masterclass here. So I would like to extend my special thanks and welcome to Consul General of Israel for South India, Ms. Tammy Benham is here. She has joined us today. Thank you so much, Tammy, for joining in. Welcome to our business series session.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I can't be with my video on, but it's due to some issues here with the internet. It was very interesting. And thank you, Sanjay. I think you were very on point on many of the things. I like the way you presented it.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for being here.
Right. Thank you. And like participants, like say if there is, Uma Balakrishnan is having a question. Uma, can you come on camera and go ahead with the question?
Yeah, hi Sanjay. Thanks to CWE and Sanjay. Learned a lot in the 90 minutes. A quick
By the way,
question.
there's a quiz coming up at the end of this. So if you say you've learned stuff, then you have to show it in the quiz.
I promise. I was a sincere student for 90 minutes. Yeah. So my question is between, I run two ventures. One is a fledgling, startup, or a new one. And I have another one, which has got some maturity and it's at growth. So what are some fundamental shifts in thinking when we put decks for raising additional capital?
And these are two different businesses, right?
Yeah, two completely different businesses.
Okay. So if you're raising money for a, let's say, growth business, right? Then the challenges in front of you are far more than if you were doing a startup.
Okay.
Because now you have a track record. You have actually been in the market and you've shown that you have customers, that you are servicing them, that you have already some money in the bank, you have done some sourcing, etc., etc. You have a team. So it is no longer possibilities based. It is about leveraging those possibilities and growing. Okay. So the challenges are far more in that, okay, great, you've done, let's say 50 lakhs of business or 1 crore of business, right? Now you want to go to 5 crores. How are you going to do it? What is the changes in the team that you will require? Okay. What kind of new business models will you do? How will you bring in sourcing to add more products? What is the product portfolio going to look like? How will you continue to acquire new customers? Okay, so the number of questions will increase because now bad news, you've given people evidence that you can grow a business.
Okay.
Now people want to see more growth.
Okay.
If I grow from 0 to 1 crore is very different from growing from 1 crore to 10 crores. Right? Everything changes. So the example I always tell is when you see a chap on a gadi selling vada pav, how does that person become McDonald's? Right? I'm selling 150 vada pavs every day. My business is running. Versus a person who has not even started a vada pav business. The third is, I've done a vada pav business. Now I want to have 50 vada pav gadis on the street. Then from 50 to 5,000. Okay. So at each stage, there is a log scale shift in the way you have to think of your business, both qualitatively as well as quantitatively. Yeah. And that's important.
Thank you. Thanks, Sanjay.
Yeah, we have one more last question coming from Sarahana. Sarahana, you want to switch on your camera and unmute and ask the question? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Hi, Sanjay. Thanks a lot for the presentation. So my question is it really better if the business idea comes from the professional background of the founder versus, starting something just based on the experience or observation that the person might have made? So is it more credible if the founder is starting off in the area of their professional expertise?
It doesn't matter actually. It doesn't matter. Okay. What matters is, have you thought about see, everybody has an idea, particularly in India, 1.4 billion people, there are about 10 billion ideas at any point of time. So the ideas by itself don't mean anything. The question is what you do with it. Okay. Because everybody in India is a consultant, no? Government should do this, somebody else should do that, BBMP should do this. Everybody has ideas. Okay. Thank you. So it is the so that is answered by the entrepreneur. You understand? So whether it comes from your professional background, in other words, have you thought deeply about it? Have you spent time investigating whether it's a real problem or opportunity or something which is just a passing fancy?
Yeah.
Right? For example, I'll tell you, you heard of Naukri, right? Naukri.com. Yeah. So when Sanjeev Bikhchandani was starting Naukri, you know how he thought, how the first idea came? In those days, this is back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, people, you would get magazines, business magazines. And most people would read the business magazine from the back. Right? From the last page, they would turn it towards the front. Do you know why? Because all the job offers were there on the last page. Okay? So everybody knows that. So you turn it, new magazine arrives, you turn to the last page. Either it has gossip or it has got jobs. So you look at that last page, you say, it's got job. Everybody is reading it. So what did Sanjeev do? He said, hey, everybody is reading a magazine, not from the front, but from the back. What if I could now make it available in a compendium, right? So here's a set from all magazines. This is a set of jobs. Okay. That is how it started. And then, of course, the internet happened, and then he went to the internet, etc., etc. But but this came out of not because he experienced it, but because he observed it. And then he deep dived to really see how real it was. Was he the only person observing this? Was everybody doing it? Was it particular only to one magazine or to all magazines? You understand? That is what I mean by deep diving into the initial insight that you get.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks, Lord.
Thank you.
Great. So any other questions about this, you can always, write to us at hello@cwe.org.in. We will also try to, we'll respond to you. We'll get some updates from Sanjay and respond to you. So this was one exclusive masterclass that we have got, with the master himself, the Sanjay Anandaram.